Folks, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the table. Evil Dungeon Master here. Name is Vince. We're going to be looking at systems failure again today, following up with what we talked about the last time. But instead of giving you an overview of the book, I'm going to focus in a little bit on something that really makes this game interesting, and that's the bugs themselves. Now, we talked about them in the last video, just kind of like a general overview. I'm going to go into a little of a deep dive. On page 59, we start with the bugs themselves. And I have to say, read this over a couple times. It is really interesting and it gives you a lot of information about the bugs. And when the bugs are first introduced, the book makes a very important move right away. It does not frame them as misunderstood aliens or tragic refuge. It frames them as predators, which they are, not emotional predators, not symbolic ones, but practical. They feed on energy, heat, radiation, electricity, anything with a strong output, as you can in the picture. They can survive on low background energy if they have to, but they prefer concentrated sources. That preference drives everything else in the setting for them. This single idea explains the fall of civilization better than the pages of any backstory could ever do for. Cities collapse first because cities are dense with power. Power plants become feeding grounds. Communication networks become travel routes for the bugs. The bugs do not need to conquer territories the way humans think about conquest. All they need is access. Once they have that, the rest just naturally happens for them. One of the smartest rules in this section is the way the bugs move. They cannot convert themselves into pure bioenergy. They enter the electrical systems directly. Power lines are basically roads for them. Transformers are intersections for them to get around. Generators are basically the door. This is not just a cool trick. It is the backbone of how these bugs work in the setting. Any place with wires is basically vulnerable to these bugs. Any attempt to restore power is absolutely dangerous. Turning on a generator is like ringing the dinner bell for them. The mechanic alone reshapes how players think. Safe places are not bunkers or armored compounds. Safe places are inconvenient places. Wilderness, ruins, areas without infrastructure. The world does not become post-apocalyptic because everything is destroyed. It becomes post-apocalyptic because the system people rely on becomes liability. The bugs are intelligent, but not emotional the way humans are. They do not feel guilt or empathy. They understand reward. High energy environments make them sluggish and complacent. Low energy environments make them restless and kind of aggressive. This creates a weakness the book never actually kind of throws in your face. You have to figure it out by reading it, but quietly will give to the game master if you actually see it when you read it. Comfort makes the bugs lazy. Starve them and they are forced to move. Every bug begins life as an army, and that's basically talking about the hierarchy of the bugs here. There is no queen, so to speak. No predetermined caste. Survival and longevity depends on advancement. Army ants make up the majority of the population. They are strong, they are fast, and they are dangerous, but not particularly bright. Most importantly, they depend on leadership. Without leaders, army ants lose cohesion. They panic, they lose initiative, they become disorganized. This single rule tells you how encounters are meant to run. You're not expected to wipe out swarms, you're expected to disrupt them, take out the leaders, create confusion, and break coordination. Humanity survives in systems failure by interference, not domination. Now, the assassin bug is where this section really kind of starts to shine when it comes to the bugs here. And here's the army ant tier 1 with its general stats and everything like that. And it goes over that in some great detail, which I want you to look at. But the assassin bug is what we're talking about now, which is a tier 2 bug. And this is where it really starts to shine, like I was saying. It's not the strongest bug, but it is the most unsettling. Assassin bugs scout ahead of the swarm. They observe, they listen, they learn. Their primary weapon is deception. They can mimic human speech patterns after hearing them just once. Not voices, but phrasing, rhythm, word choice. The terrifying part is they do not understand the meaning, but they can repeat phrases without comprehension. They can answer questions kind of incorrectly in subtle ways. They can misuse slang, they can almost sound right. This allows game masters to run entire scenarios with no combat. Radio calls, emergency broadcasts, voices in the dark. Players learn to listen for mistakes. Horrors come from the doubt instead of damage. So imagine these bugs, and you're scouting, and you start hearing human voices in the area, but it just sounds off to you. It sounds weird to you. They are assassin bugs trying to trick you, trying to see what it can do, throwing different phrases out. Now, it doesn't understand what the phrases mean, but it does understand your reaction to these phrases. So if it latches onto a help me phrase and it sees that when it says, like maybe a woman's voice or a man's voice, help me, these bugs will start doing that and will notice, okay, I use this phrase, these humans seem to run towards it for some reason. It's a perfect ambush for our bugs. I'm going to start doing that. So just keep that in mind when you're playing these certain bugs, that they do have some type of intelligence when it comes to these things. Now let's move on to the Bombardier Beetle, which is another tier 2 bug. They are the opposite of the assassin bugs. They are loud, they're heavy, obvious. You can see them a mile away. They announce their presence through vibration, destruction. Bombardiers are walking artillery. They carry bioenergy bombs that could be thrown, rolled, and placed wherever these are not just attacks. They reshape battlefield, collapse buildings, create areas players can cross. Hierarchy matters among the bugs. These bugs rarely trust lesser bugs with heavy weapons. Authority is controlled. Power is guaranteed. Even monsters have command structures. This reinforces the idea that the bugs are not exactly mindless swarms. They are an organized force with internal rules, though they don't have a queen, which is interesting. Now, killer bees are where this is the bombardier bug. See how it's kind of like a giant bug? But the killer bee is the next one we're going to talk about, and they're quite interesting. This is where cruelty enters the picture. These bugs do not kill efficiently, they kill for sport. They terrorize, they enjoy fear. The horror factor associated with killer bees increases after witnesses see them fight. Fear escalates with exposure. This mirrors trauma. The more you see, the worse it gets. Killer bees can also lose control. They can enter frenzies, attack allies as well as enemies because they lose control. This makes them dangerous to everyone and gives the game master permission to let encounters spiral into, disaster. Not every bug follows orders perfectly. Chaos cuts both ways. Now the stink bugs, and here's the bees, which they're pretty nasty, and we get some stats for them. But now we're going into stink bugs. Now we've all heard of stink bugs. We can't stand stink bugs, and they're annoying depending on the area of the United States you live in. I'm not sure if it's over across the pond or not, but people talk up for that. But stink bugs, those bugs, are organizers. They are not frontline fighters. They manage resources and infrastructure. Their most disturbing creation is the silkworm. Silkworms are parasitic organisms that turn humans into controlled zombies. Not undead, not mindless, enslaved. Human bodies become interfaces. The bugs do not understand technology, so they use people to operate it. This is one of the bleakest, disturbing ideas in the book. Civilization does not end, it just keeps running. Lights stay on, cities glow, factories hum. The people inside are basically prisoners. Horror here is quiet and systematic, excuse me. I want to say, thinking about these silkworms, it reminds me of the TV show Falling Skies when they did this with the little bugs that crawled into people's ears, those little flies, and they controlled them to a certain amount. Now, and I wonder if Falling Skies kind of took the idea of that controlling thing from maybe this. Maybe they took it from the old Star Trek Wrath of Khan with the bugs, slugs that go in the ears and can control things like that. I find it interesting. I like the idea of it because then you never know who is on your side or not on your side. The bugs work as a campaign engine because they support pacing. They do not conquer everything at once. They target high value areas and fortify them. This allows stories to start small, and the town goes dark, a broadcast stops, a patrol disappears, players discover the threat instead of being thrown into it. The bugs also support long-term play. The bugs are an occupation and not a single villain to beat. They settle, they defend, they exploit. Players have to sabotage, survive, regroup. Victory comes in small increments, not just one battle. You'll never really ever defeat the bugs. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that it's an uphill battle, but there's no actual up at the top of the hill in sight. So the mechanics in this reinforce the story at every level. Energy movement explains collapse. Leadership explains morale. Hierarchy explains escalation. Nothing feels arbitrary in this game whatsoever. Morale pressure is built in. Destroying infrastructure hurts the bugs, but could also kill the enslaved humans. So rescue is risky. Inaction has consequences. The book does not tell you what is right, it shows you what happens when you do something. Running the bugs requires a lot of restraint from the GM. Treating them like normal monsters flattens everything special about them. They should feel like a system. Players learn patterns. Power means danger. Silence means safety. Leadership matters. Sound matters. Misinformation matters. The bugs absolutely underestimate humanity when it comes to humans. They see humans as weak, scattered, and finished and done. That arrogance is basically their flaw. Humanity survives by adaptability, interference, and by making the bugs uncomfortable. This section is not just a monster list, it is a invasion model. You can run an entire campaign only just using this material. The unanswered questions remain: high tiers, origins, purpose. The book does not really answer them. Mystery keeps fear alive. That is why the bugs work, and that is why systems failure holds together. The more time you spend with this section, the more you realize how deliberate it avoids easy answers. It does not hand the game master a single correct approach. Instead, it provides pressure points: power, leadership, communication, and each of these can be attacked, defended, or manipulated. That flexibility is what allows different tables to tell a very different story using the same materials. Some groups will focus on resistance cells and sabotage, others will focus on survival and escape. Others will treat the bugs as environmental hazards rather than a central antagonist. All of these approaches work because the system supports them and how you do. Another thing that really stands out once you sit with this material is how much trust it puts in the game master to run them. The book doesn't hold your hand. Nothing in Palladium ever really holds your hand. It does not give you a scripted encounter to balance set piece. Instead, it assumes that you will read the rules, understand the logic behind them, and then apply that logic creatively. The kind of trust is rare that is done this, and is one of the reasons this section feels usable to this day when it comes to this book. The bugs are designed to be learned over time. Early encounters are confusing and kind of frightening. Players do not know what they are facing, they do not know how fast the bugs move, how coordinated they are, or what they exactly want. Over time, patterns will emerge. The group learns that power draws their attention. They learn that cutting communications can save lives. They learn that taking out leaders matter more than the body count of the bugs. That learning curve is intentional. It mirrors the experience of people living through the occupation of bugs on Earth. Another subtle strength of this section is how it handles scale. Bugs can exist at every level of play. A single army ant is dangerous to civilians. A squad is terrifying to unprepared characters. A swarm is a disaster. At the same time, the presence of leaders allows the game masters to tune encounters without actually changing things in the fiction. Adding a lightning bug or an assassin bug does not add difficulty, it adds changes in behavior of how they work. It changes tactics, it changes pacing. The world feels consistent even as the threat escalates. Lightning bugs really deserve a little bit more attention or special mention because they embody the idea of coordination. They act as battlefield controllers, improving the effectiveness of nearby bugs and maintaining cohesion. When lightning bugs are present, the swarm feels sharp and disciplined, snappy. When they are removed, everything starts to unravel and chaos going to come out. That contrast is powerful at the table. Players feel the difference immediately. Combat becomes less predictable. Enemies make mistakes, openings appear. The fiction and the mechanics reinforce each other. The book also does a great job of reminding the game master that bugs are not omniscient. They rely on information gathered by scouts. They rely on communication, they rely on infrastructure. Disrupt those things, and the bugs become reactive instead of proactive. This creates space for planning and clever play. Characters who avoid direct confrontation can still make full progress. Sabotage matters. Misdirection matters. Patience matters. One of the reasons this material works so well for a video discussion is that it invites conversation rather than answers. There's no final boss hidden in these pages if you flip through them. There is no secret switch that turns off the invasion. There is no pressure that can be applied and relieved. The bugs respond to change in their environment. They adapt, they escalate, they withdraw when it suits them. This keeps the campaign from becoming stagnant with bugs. And I know a lot of people said that this type of thing won't last as far as the campaign is concerned. It's kind of a short thing. No, this can go on for. This could be a game that you run for a long time. They never actually made more books for systems failure. What you see is what you get. They may have, and I couldn't find it, but I thought there was some Rifter articles concerning the bugs or some updates for system failure, but I could never find it again. I thought I read something that could be more about the bugs. I don't know. If you have more experience in this and you're running this game or have run this game more than a few times and added more materials, I'd like to see what your comments are about. So another important aspect to how the bugs reshape human society while erasing it. People adapt. Communities form around low-tech solutions. Trade changes. Communication becomes loyal. Power is rationed and avoided entirely. The book does not spell this all out in a lot of detail, but it gives you enough tools to imagine. As a game master, you are encouraged to fill in the gaps, much like a lot of Palladium. Fill in the gaps. This is not for the new GM, unfortunately. A lot of Palladium is not exactly new GM friendly, I'm not going to lie. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort when it comes to running Palladium games. So, what does a town do without electricity look like after 5 years? I don't know. You tell me. What changes? What skills become valuable? Those questions emerge from the natural premise of this game. The Silkworm concept continues to haunt long after it is introduced once they figure out what it is and how it works. The idea that people are kept alive to maintain systems forces hard choices. Do you destroy a power plant and kill everyone inside it? Do you try to rescue them knowing that many will not survive? Do you leave the system intact to avoid bloodshed while knowing that it feeds the enemy? These are not puzzles with correct answer. You can't find the answers. These are moral pressures that define tone. Groups that wander darker stories will lean into these moments. They're going to want to know what to do. Groups that hope will search for alternatives. The book supports by refusing to resolve the dilemma for you. Now, you can play these people out, and you don't have to keep them as mindless zombies. I would give them a little bit of a personality when it comes to using these silkworms in them. Sure, they have a main task, and maybe they might fall into doing this main task, but they would still have somewhat of a personality left, and they would definitely try to trick human. So, I don't know. You tell me how you want to play. Another thing worth talking about is how sound is treated as a narrative tool. Buzzing wings, heavy impacts, crackling energy lines, distorted voices over radio. These details matter. They let the game master communicate danger before the dice are even rolled. They also create a memory. Players remember sounds. They remember the moment the generator kicked on and the buzzing started. They remember the radio calls that just didn't feel right when they got, but they did seem believable. These sensory hooks make the bugs feel present even when they are not on screen. The longer the campaign runs, the more the bugs shift from monsters to the environment. They become part of the landscape. Their presence influences routes, settlements, and strategies. This is where systems failure earns its name. The system people rely on no longer function the way they expect. Players stop thinking in terms of dungeons and start thinking in terms of supply lines, safe zones, and information control. That shift is not forced. It happens naturally because the rules push play in that direction. So, we're going to end it here today when it comes to this looking at the bugs. So hopefully they're giving you some ideas and giving you some choices when picking up a book, or if you have this book in your library, like I have this book in my library, and it's probably one that I don't really look at that often, but when I was looking to do videos, this is one of them that I picked up and I went, this would make a pretty interesting video to talk about the system in a whole, and then the bugs themselves in another video. The bugs can be ported into any other campaign you want. It's really written up for a horror factor. You could put them into Dead Rain. You could put them anywhere you really want. Hell, put them in Rifts if you want. It might be interesting to see what happens in Rifts. That's what these books are all about, and that's what I find interesting. Systems Failure is a book that people forgot about. I think Palladium forgot about it too, or they just lost interest in it. I haven't seen much material on it other than the Palladium forums themselves talking about the system, like from fan wise. Again, I vaguely remember something in a Rifter somewhere, but I just my Google search was failing me. So if anybody has any information on maybe a Rifter that talked a little bit about maybe some of what Palladium was famous for doing, talking about, hey, this is going to be coming up and this is going to be in a future book, and it gives you a teaser about it, but never does it. I know that's changing a lot now with Kevin taking a little bit of a step back and Sean kind of going into the pilot seat of running things for Palladium. So we're starting to see some things come out, some more information, things like that. Don't forget to head over to my patreon.com/steveldm. I am putting out a newsletter that will for Palladium Fantasy. Every week is going to have drop a newsletter for my patrons, and it'll give the GMs at least one solid idea. It doesn't have to be Palladium Fantasy. It could be anything in Palladium for that matter. But it's going to give GMs a one-page idea that they can use or something that could inspire something in their campaigns. It's called Borderland Threats, and you can subscribe to my Patreon for only $1 a month. That cheap. Anyway, I'm going to head out. Keep it original. Keep it old school. Good night, and God bless everybody.
Don't ever laugh as the hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die. They wrap you up in a big white sheet from